Hey fellow gamers, Chatty Sisa here. Something interesting is happening around the EXPANSE again, and no, I don't mean the upcoming Osiris Reborn game from Owlcat, even though it is a bit connected. But this one is about the TV series. Alcon Entertainment, the company that actually owns the EXPANSE, has quietly taken back the control of the broadcast rights not so long ago. But let's go into the details later in this vid. What is more important is that now they're publicly saying that they're open to continuing the series if the conditions are right. Before we go any further, a quick spoiler warning. This video will include references to the book series as a whole. And I won't go into details, but we'll cover the general story direction so that the bigger picture makes sense, especially for those who've only watched the TV show. For those of you who are not familiar with neither the books nor the TV show, you should probably stop watching the vid right here if you want to avoid major spoilers. To understand where the EXPANSE could continue, we need to quickly recap what the show already covered and where it stopped. The first 6 seasons of the TV series adapt the first 6 books of the novels. That includes the creation of the Belt, the conflict between Earth, Mars and the Belters, the rise and fall of the protomolecule threat, and the opening of the ring gates. We start with the Rocinante crew. There's Holden, Naomi, Amos and Alex, a group of people who never planned to be heroes, but end up being the characters through which we mostly experience and understand the main storyline. Their journey takes us through the core conflict between Earth, representing a powerful, resource-rich but politically rigid faction, then Mars, which is disciplined, technologically advanced and pushing to terraform their planet, and the third main faction is the Belt. People living on the outer planets, exploited for generations, treated as second-class labor and slowly developing their own identity and resistance. Then the protomolecule changes everything. It's clearly ancient and not human, and its purpose is bigger than anything humanity understands at this point. Once it activates, it opens the Ring Network, or also known as the Gate Network, a system of wormholes leading to more than 1,300 planetary systems across the Milky Way. And suddenly the fight is no longer just the Belt versus the inner planets, but it becomes a fight over who gets to control the future of humanity. Season 4 shows the first attempts at colonization and the political tension that comes with it. Season 5 focuses on the consequences of oppression, with Marco Inaros, a radical Belter operative leading OPA's Free Navy, attacking Earth directly. That event reshuffles power across the entire system. By Season 6, which adapts the Book 6, the war between Earth, Mars and the Belt reaches a fragile, uneasy truce. The show ends with a temporary political balance, not really peace, just an understanding that open war would destroy everyone. The Rocinante crew is still together, but their roles are changing and the future of humanity feels very uncertain. It's a clear emotional ending and a logical TV ending, but it is not the end of the story. Because in the books, the events of Book 6 are not the climax. They're a transition point showcasing the end of one era and the beginning of another. The final 3 books, 7, 8 and 9, take place 3 decades later, and the focus shifts from the old political triangle to a new major power rising outside of the solar system, the Laconian Empire. These are humans originally from Mars, led by former MCRN Admiral Winston Duarte, who established the Empire after taking control of the Laconia system, one of the planetary systems reachable through the ring gates. The Empire is armed with advanced technology derived from the protomolecule. This is where the story becomes much larger in scale, more philosophical, and more dangerous because humanity is no longer just dealing with its internal conflicts, but the consequences of using technology made by something far older and far more powerful than anything humans have ever encountered. So to put it simply, the show ended at the end of the first arc, which I'd call the Solar System arc, and the books continue into the Laconia arc, which the show has not touched yet. This is where a continuation would have to begin. Let's talk about how the original TV show was made, because this is important to talk about in order to understand where and how it could continue. The Expanse was originally produced by the previously mentioned Alcon Entertainment and aired on Sci-Fi for the first 3 seasons. Alcon has always been the owner of the franchise. In 2013, they've acquired the television rights to the Expanse book series to develop the show, with the authors Daniel Abraham and Ty Frank also serving as writers and producers. They financed the show, they managed the production, and they controlled the direction. Sci-Fi was just a licensed broadcaster. Those first 3 seasons were known for being grounded, consistent, and closely connected to the books. And that's mainly thanks to the original writers still being on board of the TV show. These seasons weren't flashy, but they had a very strong identity. Serious tone, realistic world building, and the sense that actions always had consequences. Then Sci-Fi cancelled the show in 2018. Not because of the ratings, but because the streaming rights structure meant that Sci-Fi wasn't making money from the replays. After that, Amazon stepped in and obtained the streaming license for seasons 4, 5 and 6. Alcon continued to co-produce and finance the show under this new agreement with Amazon, and it's important to remember, Amazon never owned The Expanse. This is why season 4 suddenly felt different to many viewers. Some described it as feeling flat and attributed the change to the writing. The show moved from a cable network budget to a streaming service model, meaning bigger CGI, cleaner visuals, but slower pacing and different narrative priorities. It was still good, but the tone has shifted noticeably, becoming more polished and less gritty. Even though Amazon still worked with the original writers, they were trying to slow down the pacing to be able to get more content, if you will, out of the book series. Season 6 ended the series where Book 6 ends, not because the story was finished, but because continuing into Book 7 would require a much bigger budget. As mentioned, the story jumps forward about 30 years, introduces new ships, new planets, new political systems, and deals with gigantic set pieces and visual changes. That kind of scale is expensive. Amazon wasn't interested in paying for a large multi-season continuation without guaranteed mainstream audience growth. So instead of cancelling it outright or dragging it out even more, they ended the show at a logical stopping point at the end of the so-called Solar System arc. While Amazon obtained the licensing rights for seasons 4, 5 and 6 originally, they also managed to obtain the licensing rights for the seasons 1, 2 and 3, which were originally produced by Sci-Fi, and they broadcasted them on Amazon Prime Video. Now that the initial licensing agreement for the first 3 seasons expired in early 2025 and people are getting excited about Owlcat's new game, The Expanse Osiris Reborn, Alcon Entertainment, as the owner of the IP, has started exploring other opportunities to continue the franchise, seeing the renewed interest from the fans and the media. In recent industry interviews, they said very plainly that they have not abandoned the franchise and that they are open to continuing the series if the conditions are right. But what would be these right conditions? The next arc, the Laconia arc, is not small, as previously mentioned. It moves away from just being within the solar system. It's now encompassing multiple planetary systems and the so-called slow zone, which is a starless empty alien nebula that has access to all the other ring gates and contains the main ring station. For the Mass Effect fans among you, that's a very similar idea to the Citadel. The arc is bigger, more complex, it requires more sets, new ships, new political centers, and a noticeably expanded CGI budget. So the budget question is very important, and there aren't many broadcasters or streaming services who could afford the necessary huge investment. Amazon is at this point not really interested because the seasons 4, 5 and 6 never brought them the revenue they expected. The other factors are, for example, that some of the original cast members have openly said that they would return, but only under the condition that the writing team and tone stay consistent, which again would depend on the company that gets the licensing and production. So even though there are no official announcements, no production start or filming start yet, the timing would technically be perfect for Alcon to look for a new partner to produce the next season of the TV show and to go beyond Book 6. But it will to a large part depend on who they partner with. The same is also reflected in the audience reaction when this news first appeared. I went through a lot of comments to see where people stand, and the overall sentiment is very consistent. People do want the Expanse back, but they don't want it just under anyone. Most say, please not Amazon again, and absolutely not Disney. And honestly, I get it. Amazon already had the chance to continue the show beyond season 6 and didn't want to invest any further. And Disney has butchered so far any established beloved franchise beyond repair. Let me just say 2 words as an example: Star Wars. The suggestion that keeps coming up again and again for the Expanse from the fans is Apple TV+. Not because people necessarily love Apple, but because Apple at least lets the shows breathe, so to speak, and doesn't cancel everything after 1 season. Just look at the series like For All Mankind, Foundation or Silo. Love them or not, they take sci-fi seriously. I am not saying those series are perfectly adapted, but Apple pays attention to the world building, they give the stories space, and most importantly, they don't treat the audience like idiots. Another recurring sentiment is that the original cast is non-negotiable. Fans do not want to recast the Rocinante crew unless absolutely necessary. And they definitely don't want a reboot, a reimagining, or a modern reinterpretation. They want a continuation, written by the same authors, with the same tone, the same internal logic, and the same themes. The Expanse is one of those rare series where the fanbase is loyal, patient, and still growing. People rewatch it multiple times and they introduce it to friends. Many commenters I've seen online are on their 5th, 7th or even 11th rewatch, which is honestly insane, and it tells you exactly how much depth and rewatch value the original show had. So the sentiment is pretty simple. Yes, bring it back, but only if you do it right. And as for me, if a new season means reimagining the story, rewriting themes, or turning the Expanse into yet another modern-day woke politics nonsense TV series that butchers the original lore, then no, thanks. We've seen how that goes. The Witcher got gutted and turned into a feminist Yennefer and Ciri show that has barely any resemblance of the original story or universe. The Wheel of Time is so far off the original books that it only shares the name and not much more. And the Rings of Poop took a legend and treated it like fan fiction with a budget. That's just to name a few examples. I absolutely don't want the Expanse added to that list. This series worked because it respected the original lore, the story, the audience, the science and the consequences. It didn't try to lecture us, and it didn't treat viewers like confused toddlers who need everything spelled out. Now, if Alcon remains in charge and Abraham and Frank are coming back to lead the writing, steering the tone and protecting the lore, I'm cautiously optimistic. The Laconia arc is huge, but it is already written. It doesn't need to be reimagined. It needs to be adapted properly, with the same discipline the early seasons had. Give it the budget, keep the writers in control, and don't try to fix what wasn't broken. But I'm curious, would you want The Expanse to continue if it meant sticking closely to the books and keeping the original writers at the helm? Or would you prefer that it stays ending with Season 6 rather than risking another franchise being updated for modern audiences? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you want to have a look at some of the lore while we are waiting to see what Alcon does, then check out my other Expanse related videos on the channel. Those are also in a separate playlist for easier access. And if you've managed to watch this far, then I'd be really grateful if you'd hit that like button or share this vid. And if you like the rest of the channel, don't hesitate to push that subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified whenever I upload a new vid. Thank you very much for watching, stay tuned and game on!